Okay.
Right, you know what I've done is...
Okay, I'm going to have to butt in right at the very start. What's going on here? Is this just some sort of chat with your pals? It doesn't look like a press conference. You're standing there in the middle of nowhere, nothing to anchor your hands on, nothing to anchor yourself on. You're already starting to move around like a jackrabbit on speed. So slow down and don't start with what I've done is you are not a man of the people. Don't try and pretend to be. Even Boris Johnson and Joe Biden do better at delivery than this.
Some official, some political, and some that I accept are entirely my own, for which I take full responsibility.
I haven't seen the likes of this in a long time.
Follow a process, which is the right process.
Well, let me stop you again. What's this process? Who designed this process? Why do you know it's the right process? How do you know it's the right process? And why are you telling us about a process? We don't care. We just want to know what you have done, if you have been a decisive leader in this occasion.
Integrity is really important to me.
Again, I need to stop you. Was integrity important to you when your wife was claiming nom-dom status and not paying tax? Founded a hedge company and bought shares in Moderna? And then subsequently gave them a massive contract? Was integrity important to you then? Rishi? Was it?
All of you guys want to see that government's run properly, that it's run with integrity, and there's accountability when people don't behave in a way that they should or when something doesn't go right, and that's what we've done. So
yes, we do want to see that government's run properly, but I don't think it is. In fact, I think that whole viper's nest of 650 people that purport to represent the population of Great Britain, that purport to represent the people that elected them, that purport to represent the people that didn't elect them because, you know, they are the representative for the area, not just the people that elected them. I think you do not give one iota of a minuscule thought to representing them. All you're doing is feathering your own nest and keeping the population under control, because that is the aim of government.
What the government has, but it's not, you know, it's not me who's doing it. And what I asked when all these questions started coming to light about Nadhim Zahawi, you know, I asked the independent advisor to get to the bottom of it.
Again, I feel I need to interject. You have an independent advisor because you're incapable of making a decision and running your own house with integrity. You need someone on the outside to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. Are you really a second-year pupil high school? Do you have any conscious thought? Do you have any idea how to run a government? What qualifies you to be there? You're asking me more questions than you're delivering here, Rishi. I'm not impressed. Buck up.
And to provide me with the facts, and then on the basis of the facts, which he did relatively quickly over the course of last week, I was able to make a very quick decision that it was no longer appropriate for Nadhim Zahawi to continue in government, and that's why he's no longer there.
But why is it not you doing it? Why aren't you making the decisions? Why aren't you deciding what the fault is? Why aren't you doing the investigation? Why aren't you running it rather than asking an independent advisor? And did he? And how do you know he got to the bottom of it? Because you didn't do the investigation. You're just taking a report from an independent advisor. How do you know it's accurate? I'm not questioning if it is or not. I'm just asking, how do you know it's accurate? So you were provided by the facts by an independent advisor and you made a decision. Jolly good show, old boy. You've made a decision, and that's why Nadhim is no longer there. Now, don't get me wrong, but don't you have a full department called, what's it called? HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. And don't they pursue the gathering of tax? And let's not go into whether we think tax is a good thing or not, but they pursue that for you. You know, they are your government stooge. Can they not tell you whether it was correct or not, or whether he'd fallen foul of them or not? Because let's face it, we, the common people, don't get an independent advisor if the tax office comes for us. We just get sent to jail if we've done something wrong, or fined, or put out of business. So if the tax office comes for us, we don't have any court to appeal to, really. They just make their decision and that's it. Bang.
Well, well, well. Good afternoon, John.
Is your son?
Huh? Wah!
Your son?
Dada!
Ah?
Dada! Gōng chi fa sai!
Kung hei fat choi?
Kong hei fa choi!
Laps up,
Hi.
John.
Hi. How you doing, John?
I'm doing all right, mate. I'm doing all right. I think it was yesterday was the official date of the Chinese New Year.
It probably was, yeah. And as people might see, I'm still working on the studio over here. We've brought the lighting up even further, especially against the backdrop. How's it looking at your end, John?
It's let's just say we'll have a little bit of more work, but it's getting there.
It is getting there.
Yeah,
it
it's
is,
very
it
much
is
getting there. Yeah.
And like I say, we're just flooding this area now with light, so hopefully the quality at least looks better.
Oh, you look lovely. You can see every minor imperfection in your otherwise flawless face. Decode that one. Right.
It's all ready.
Okay,
to go.
how many's in the troll room have we got? How many have we got?
Well, we've got 7 in the troll room and 3 likes at the moment.
Okay.
Which means, John, get the boys on the phone.
I can't give my phone to my wife. Anyway.
Oh, for God's sake.
Tell you what, troll room,
Right.
how's the audio? Because both Ben and I have spent about 10 hours working on our respective audios.
We haven't. I mean, you won't be getting my full whack. You'll hear my full, crisp, beautiful audio on tomorrow's propaganda watch. And I apologise that I didn't put one out this morning. It was either do that or go on Sonia Poulton's show. And obviously, you saw us this morning briefly on Sonia Poulton's show because we did not get to finish our segment. Unfortunately, it was like Chasing Dissent. Trudy says Ben's a little quiet. How about that?
Right.
Is that better?
How's that? Bring it in a little.
Yeah, I'll bring it in a little. Does that bring it up? But yeah, we're trying to work on everything and make everything look and sound as good, as beautiful, and as wonderful as absolutely possible. Spencer though says that the audio is awesome. Jay Franklin is trolling us and says it's rubbish.
I'm disregarded.
Yeah, well, we did hijack the show this morning, Trudy. We had no choice, right? We had no choice.
Well, I suppose I didn't have to say, and welcome to this impromptu episode of Chasing Dissent Live with Sean
You
Ward.
definitely did. Well, look, there was 2 of us and 1 of him. It happens, right?
Yeah.
It happens. But no, it was good fun. But I thought to myself, and I was working quite late last night on my audio, and I even had these guys going to me, "Hey, come play Fortnite." I was,
Team
"Nope,
trash,
I'm
team
working."
trash.
Nope. I said, nope.
I'm working.
I'm not doing it.
working.
Which I imagine made John have a little smile of pride behind over there in his studio, because he's always having to go at me. Don't play Fortnite. Don't play Fortnite. You should be working. And I said, nope. I'm not doing it. I want to create a superior product. And that's what I hope we're trying to do here. It's a work in progress, as John says, and it will always be a work in progress until we're in our one studio in Florida. And then we will have hit where we need to be. But Jay Franklin said, I was looking forward to seeing you. Never mind. We were there.
Yeah, we were there. We were there for about 20 minutes or more.
We were. We did
Yeah.
hijack the show.
I mean, he did. I did it again. I stirred it up, didn't I?
You do like to stir the old pot. I mean, I was sitting there going, time out, time out, time out. Because John and Sean were proper getting into it. It was, I was just sitting here.
But there There was no, I mean, it wasn't a personal thing. It was just I was only trying to put the point across that if you want to move to how Sean thinks, then as a society you have to do that. Not individually. You know what I mean?
No, Jay, you need to watch the replay of the first part. So there's 2 videos for this morning's Rise of Brand YouTube. So there's you need to watch the first part of the replay. We are on.
Yeah.
Anyone got a link for the show? Asks Harold. Well, if somebody could grab a link to part 1 of this morning and stick it in the troll room, we would be extremely appreciative. If you are watching on Rumble, we are slowly ticking up over there. So thank you very much for those of you that do click on our little shows on Rumble. And if you are watching on Twitter, we apologize. There is no live chat. If you want to get involved in the live chat, then head over to the youtube.com/Chasing Dissent Official. But also like it, share it, all of that lovely, whatever platform you're on, especially on Twitter.
And you know what, people? See, if you're watching later on, or if you're watching this back, put a comment in, and we'll reply to it, because it really helps the algorithm. But we really appreciate the comments, whether they're good or bad, critical or complimentary.
So let's look at this tweet here. Then let's go. Let's look at this tweet here from Catherine CJ Hall, editor.
Yep.
It says, so Pure Gym has unisex changing rooms. My female friend used the female ones, as did a full tackle intact bloke who even identified as male on his membership form. Yet Pure Gym won't do anything after she complained. She was naked when he walked in. WTF is going on? And we'll try not to swear, obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is going on? Because that is ridiculous, especially if you know they're identifying as male, just walking around, walking into a women's changing room. That is, that's
someone ripping they're really ripping it, aren't they? They're taking it too far, because and people are like this. They always push things just too far, don't they? They're always there's a bit of Jeremy Vine in everyone.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I do.
And that's just a horrible image of just giving myself a bit of Jeremy Vine in everyone. Oh God, I'm going to be sick.
All sweaty after a long cycle. Oh, dearie.
But yeah, I mean, I think society's a wee bit broken.
A wee bit. I think society's been screwed for quite some time, John.
Yeah, I think we've got to get a grip on this, because, you know, I don't want to live in a full Bible Belt, you know, fire and brimstone type environment, but you've got to be sensible about things, and this just isn't on. It's not on.
Do you know what? I completely agree with you. I mean, I wouldn't go. I mean, look at me. I wouldn't look out of place in a women's changing room, one might say, especially if I, shave off this pathetic excuse for facial hair.
That's not a floral hog. It's a deer.
But still, I wouldn't go just strolling on into the women's changing room, because it's not my place. It's not my place to do so. And it's a place given to women to at least get changed in private and feel like they're not being, perved upon, spied upon, whatever. And I just wouldn't do it. Then at the same time, I'm not going to the gym anytime soon, because Christ, what am I going to do? Run on a treadmill?
Yeah. Well, no, and Natasha said she'd have no issue getting changed. Wouldn't see issue as long as he just got on with getting dressed. But yeah, I mean, what if people are getting dressed to the point where they're naked? I mean, really? Do you
see,
want
this? Well,
I mean, this is a bit like, you ever seen Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
So their society has obviously evolved to the point where they do not they don't
care.
They don't care about sexuality or they don't care about nakedness or whatever. And that's all very well, but that's not how we were. Well, it's certainly not how I was brought up, or not even brought up. Just it wasn't a societal norm, and therefore when you don't have it, you can't suddenly retrospectively apply it.
Well, let's face it, right? There's 2 levels to this for a lot of men. I don't know whether or not the woman that I might be getting changed in front of has any qualms or is comfortable or uncomfortable with it, right? And I'm not certain. Well, you might ask, but at the same time, you can't simply assume that the next woman is going to be like you, Natasha. And it's the same with men, right? You know, that's equality. I don't want women walking into the men's changing room and getting changed in front of me. Same deal, really. But then the second part of it is then, you know, most of us men simply wouldn't want random women to look at us naked and think, it's tiny.
And you'd have to keep going about going, look, it's pretty cold down here. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. When you say moving on, you haven't introduced a damn show.
Oh, no, neither I have.
No, you haven't. You haven't. You're absolutely slacking. Come on now, man. They can't see you. They can only see the damn roundel.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
There. Right. Show's been introduced. Done. I feel you can stop dancing now. The tune stopped quite a while ago.
I'm trying to pretend that music is still going in my goddamn head, John.
Why? Well, I suppose one has to take these little things where one can. Right. So swiftly moving on. The old the old US House are maybe starting to think about, oh well, we are in charge now as in Republicans, and they're going to vote next week on whether to end air travel or COVID vaccine mandates.
Yes, they go, and it looks like obviously they're going to vote in favour of it, and that means that that the mandate to be vaccinated as a global traveller entering the United States will effectively, it's got to go probably through the Senate as well, but will effectively be lifted before Biden's May 11th cutoff date, right?
Yeah, one would hope so.
I mean, the Republicans have been making some statements, and the man who introduced the legislation said, how on earth is this unscientific mandate still going on?
Yeah, I know.
And they're right. They're right.
The whole thing's ridiculous. It really is. I mean, they're the last country in the world, just about.
Yeah, and they're the most freedom-loving, allegedly, country in the world. I mean, this is the country that if you are stepping out of line, they come and install freedom. God damn it!
Yeah, they do.
They install you some freedom.
So no sooner has Turkey said to America, "Keep your hands off us," than they have an earthquake. A bad one, 8.1 on the Richter scale.
That is a bad one as well.
So yeah, I mean, I've seen some footage from it, and it is pretty bad. It looks bad. I don't know death tolls or anything like that. I think it's still quite early days. I saw an apartment block collapse, and I'm not quite sure why the guy thought the apartment block was going to collapse, but he stood filming it for ages before it did, on his phone. So how did he know?
Maybe he just knew it was built like shite.
There's a bit of that. There is a bit of that in these places. Yeah. Sometimes I think the old building regs are there for a reason.
Do you think the Grand Bazaar is still standing?
I have no idea. I don't even know.
No.
I've never been to Turkey, so... Fucking flying rats.
Jesus Christ,
I know.
The seabirds want you today, don't they, John? We've got off to the best start to the show.
Haven't we
really,
just?
Really have. But it's going well, I think. I think you in the chat, you can let us know if it's going well. Once again, we have more viewers than we do likes, so let's hurry up and rectify this situation, please. Let's move on to then Lizzie.
Yes, Lizzie. Fuck off, bud. I'm gonna...
He's gonna... Hold on, John. I got something for you.
Oh, nice, Ben. Nice. Yeah. That would do the job.
That would do the job, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Right, that's it. We're kitted. It's all good.
Mine's bigger than yours.
not the size, John. It's how you use it.
Okay. So anyway,
He didn't even know I had that.
I didn't know you had that.
I found it earlier when I was looking for the extra spotlight.
Oh, cool. Yeah, right. So what's old Lizzie? I don't know. I mean, I used to think Liz was a bit of a, I don't know. Well, she's always been a bit dizzy, hasn't she? Really? But I mean,
John, I don't know what you're talking about, really. I don't know what you're talking about, John.
now we've got planes coming over.
That plane's coming over because I told it to go for growth, John.
But you know, in the last how long would you say? The last year, she's the only one that's actually spoke sense.
Don't let the mainstream media hear you say that about me, John, because all they'll do is they'll punish you and they'll say you're a conspiracy theorist
Yeah, they
and
will.
that I was going to crash the country.
But I really don't think she was she? I mean,
No, I think she was undermined. I think she was targeted. I think that her budget didn't go far enough, I will say. We were talking about this earlier, and I was mentioning VAT before the show went dead. She should have lowered VAT, and any incumbent or incoming Prime Minister after Ishland should lower VAT without delay. And people say, why should you lower VAT? Because then it gives the general public instant spending power. And people...
And it's just theft.
Yes, but it gives the general public instant spending power, and then the general public, do you know what they tend to do when things are cheaper? They buy them.
Buy more. And you know what? It makes things cheaper to make as well, because then small businesses and businesses that are manufacturing are spending less to produce things.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
right.
just as far as a business is concerned. That's just a pain in the arse. Because yeah, you can claim your VAT back, but then you got to pay it at the other end, and it's just I mean, it's stupid. It's just shuffling money for the purposes of shuffling money. It's just bureaucracy on bureaucracy. So I'm not going there. Put that away. So anyway, I actually came across this the other day, which was a quote that I think fitted in very nicely with my thoughts on. Remember when I said, you know, Parliament was created in 1707, and all we've done is get more and more laws ever since. Well, here we are. The more laws and restrictions there are, the poorer the people become, and I think that's very accurate. And that is my thought of the day.
Ben. John, it was poignant, it was heartfelt, it was deep, it was true.
It was concise and to the point as well.
Well done.
Boy.
Well done, old Bean, well done.
Thank you. Right, so let's move on to our friend Latimer.
Yes, friend of the channel, Latimer Alder, the Enigma. You've met the Enigma, haven't you?
Yes, indeed I have. I've had lunch with him and his good lady. So, what Latimer is saying here is that he doesn't really hate to say I told you so, because he told us on a number of occasions. But Spiked Online have come out with an article that says the lethal cost of lockdowns and why they have increased the death toll. And yes, I agree with most of it, right? There's a part in the article that says that something cannot possibly be responsible for it, because if you look at Sweden, it bucks the trend, right?
Right.
Okay, because Sweden had a very high uptake of a certain thing.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't had the same excess deaths. Okay, so I mean, if we look at Europe, if we just look at Europe in general, right? So I mean, here we have Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, and France, and they've all got an uptick at the end there. You see that?
Yeah.
Right. So that's an excess death period occurring right now.
Okay.
The bit in the yellow hasn't been adjusted for incoming data, so they're hoping it will trend down, but they can't tell you definitively or not. Okay. So as we can see, every one of those European countries has had an uptick at the end. And then if we go to Germany, because 3 Germanys because of different, so big, different regions. Even Italy,
Germany.
Luxembourg, and Netherlands have all had a similar uptick at the end, right? They've all had excess death. Okay, and you can see the excess death across Europe has generally followed exactly the same trend. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if we look at Sweden, Switzerland, UK, and UK, right?
Yep.
It's identical. There's no
Oh,
difference.
yeah.
There's no difference with Sweden. So I don't know where Spike are getting their supposition that Sweden's done better than everyone else. In fact, looking at that, Scotland's done better than Sweden.
And I would say Switzerland has as well.
Yeah. So I can't support the supposition that they've made in that article. I think they've drawn a correlation on erroneous data.
Do you think they've done this on purpose? Do you
Yes.
think it's by design?
Yes, I do.
Because they don't.
I think they're being disingenuous and they don't want. I think they don't want to bring it to people's attention in case they get censored for it.
I was going to say, I just think they don't want to be censored. I think this is probably what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a possibility, but the thing is, if you're going to say it, when the data tells you that's not the case, you're going to look stupid. And to me, they now look stupid, and it brings their whole article into question, doesn't it?
Well, into disrepute.
Yes, it does. It does, because it's wrong. It's just wrong.
Now, once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have to tell you that one of the biggest drivers of excess deaths in the last year or so is more than likely the closure of the health service, right? And it's cancers, it's strokes, it's heart problems, it's things like that people were not diagnosed with. And that's just the sad reality in which we're living right now. Health service was effectively shut for 2.5 years. People say it wasn't. Those people are liars. Can we say that word again, John? Liars. Because there are so many people, there are so many stories, there are so many examples of people telling us, I never got to go to my chemo. I never got this. I never got that. And we have so many people, once again, walking around right now. They might not be walking around right now because they may have already passed away, but not knowing that they ever had cancer. And that is a problem. And it's going to be one of the biggest drivers of excess deaths. And
that exact thing has occurred across Europe as well.
Yes.
You know.
And what our governments need to do is admit what they've done. They were told this would happen, especially our government were told by the University of Warwick that this would happen. And not only this, they also told them that the depression, not recession, the depression that we are going to flutter down into. Because if you think we're pulling our way back up, I've got a bridge in San Francisco to sell you. But the depression is also going to kill more people because poverty kills. People say, oh, you're favoring wealth over health. What people don't understand is wealth is health, because you can't have a health service if you can't fund it. And you can't fund it if tens of thousands of small businesses fold and aren't paying into the tax system. Simple.
Simples. Right, so moving on to this French statistician who has come out with the revelation that 2020 was the 6th least lethal year in the history of France.
Oh dear.
Now let that sink in. 2020 was the 6th least lethal year in the history of France. Right?
That's not good for narratives.
No, that puts it in the bottom 6 of lethality. Right?
That doesn't help.
Now obviously this is population adjusted. So you've got to take that at relative face value. But the thing is, he's also gone and studied the figures for the rest of Europe. And it was the same for them as well, and we know this. We know this because when we look at 2020, what did it come? It came something like 19th of the top 40.
I mean, come pretty much slap bang in the middle, didn't it? It was an average death year.
Yeah.
When you look, and people go, oh, you look at the 5-year average. The 5-year average isn't going to give you a good enough picture. And it's not. The 5-year average will never give you a good enough picture.
But even in the 5-year average, it wasn't top. In 2018, Peter.
Well, you're absolutely right. And like I said, we can't actually elaborate on this much more because we will get punished by the censor gods. But these sorts of things, which have been available for all to see now for about a year and a half, I would say.
Yeah. I mean,
These sorts of
it is,
things are bad for narrative. They're bad for narrative, ladies and gentlemen.
Moving swiftly on. So there's a bit of furore cracking on in Ukraine here, and I've seen a few videos today about this. So they appear to be pulling 16 and 17-year-olds off the street almost into the army now.
Oh, what you mean, like not just drafting them, but forcing them?
Basically, yeah. And they've also, apparently Zelensky has ordered an army discipline crackdown because desertion and not following orders and breaking the rules has become sort of de rigueur. Because, I mean, I did mention on Friday the Bakhmut defence has caused Zelensky to lose like 70% of his highly trained specialist troops.
Yep.
So I'm kind of thinking the end's starting to become visible for Ukraine.
Well, yes, I would agree, but I fear Ukraine is only the beginning, because we keep hearing this rhetoric from European leaders saying we are at war with Russia.
Yeah, but well, actually, let's explore this. Right. So, while we're on the Ukraine thing, young Peter here, you remember Peter Hitchens, who is a bit of a
Peter Hitchens, who kind of speaks like this.
He's like kind of
Peter Hitchens.
Kind of a polarizing character, so you either like him or you don't. I quite like his attitude. He's always very reasonable, even when he's putting people down.
Yeah, of course.
But here he comes across with more news from the actual Ukraine, so different from the angelic paradise we're asked to believe in. Note, mention of Komolsky, head of Kiev tax authority, accused of multi-million-dollar fraud. Right. So allegations follow a raid on one of the unnamed woman's 4 homes. So Komolsky was part of the previous regime, wasn't she? Or was she? Was she the... Or is she part of... It's hard to keep up with them because their names all sound the same. No, I think she is part of... what's his name? Zelensky's. They all end up with Ski. with Zelensky's regime.
Zelensky.
So yeah, so that's going on. And at the same time, searches of the ex-deputy of Defence Minister of Ukraine, Alexander Moronok, or whatever, where piles of money were found in his sofa. And they've got video of them digging piles of money out of his sofa.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Alexander Moronic.
Moronok.
No, not anymore.
You can't make it up. I mean,
Alexander Moronic.
But you know what? If anything, and if you've any illusions about Ukraine, all I ask you to do is do some basic digging. Go and watch the BBC documentary on Ukraine.
Go and watch the BBC documentary. That's one of the only times you'll ever hear us tell you to watch the BBC. But go and watch it. Go and watch Oliver Stone's documentary on Ukraine. Ukraine on Fire. Go and watch these things. And then come to your own conclusions. Now, am I saying that Ukraine are the bad guys in this situation?
No,
there are no bad guys. There are no good guys.
But what we are saying is Ukraine has historically been one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. And it still is. It's still proving itself to be in that position.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, John. You are absolutely right. Sorry, the jacket's got to come.
You're warming up. He's warming up. He's warming up, ladies. He's warming up.
I'm warming up for you.
Right. So, as I was saying, right now, if we look at a Turkish newspaper has published the details of what's happening in Ukraine, which goes against the narrative a little bit, because Turkey's kind of pissed off with NATO, I think, just now, aren't they?
Well, always.
And they're kind of pissed off with the EU because they don't want Sweden. They don't want Sweden and Finland in, and they don't want to rock the boat because they're sitting next to Russia as well. So anyway, so what we're saying is 150,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead. That's a lot, right? 234 dead NATO military trainers
Oh, dear.
US and UK.
What? So they've been killing Brits and Americans.
Well, they will have, yeah, because if they're there, they're liable to get. I mean, what do you think Russia does? I've told you how Russia operates. It just fires in. It just fires in the artillery.
I don't really care who that's bad for, except for the fact that it's probably bad for me and you, because at some point, and not kids and you, anybody watching this, because at some point, the Britain and America are going to go, look, they're killing our people, we're going to war.
Yeah, well,
and then you are going to be forced to enter into a war that you did not want, you do not consent to, and it's just going to be the Iraq war again, another illegal situation where Richland Sunak becomes a war criminal.
Yep. So 2,458 dead NATO soldiers from Germany, Poland, Lithuania, etc. Now, the question is, why are NATO soldiers in Ukraine, and why are we training their military in Ukraine? They're not part of NATO, right?
No.
So even if you want to train them or give them advice or whatever, why not do it out with Ukraine?
Because, and I'll tell you exactly why. They want to be seen to be training them on Ukrainian soil. They want Russia to see this happening.
Yeah, you know what? I'd go further, mate.
Right?
They want NATO soldiers to die in the field in Ukraine.
You mean so that they can
so as they can justify what's going to come next. And I mean, that's an uncomfortable truth, but I think that's exactly what it is. They want to be able to turn around and go, well, Russia's killed 4,000 NATO soldiers or whatever, and go, we have no option but to go to war, just like you said.
Yeah, and it's... I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong, but we very rarely are, for one.
Yep.
But for two, you know, it's going to be your sons, your daughters, your parents in some cases that are going to be forced to go and fight this war that they never asked for if this comes to pass. And at some point, you know, the British population, and I'm talking directly to the British population here, the last 2.5 years didn't do it for you. Maybe this will. At some point, you've got to turn around to your government and say, no.
Enough's enough.
Enough's enough. This isn't our war. This isn't our fight. And I know that sounds selfish, but I don't want my kids getting killed. I don't want my family getting killed over rich so-called politicians in any one of these countries, be that Putin, be that Zelensky, be that Sunak, be that Macron in France or whatever, because they are fighting between themselves.
Yep.
Because that's all this is. This is them, any war, really. This is the leaders, the people who think they are your masters, fighting amongst themselves, and they send you to war. They send your kids to war. They send your parents to war to die for them. They don't go, do they? They sit in their bunkers. They make sure they're well protected. They make sure their families are well protected, but not yours. You're expendable. Time to start saying no to these people.
Yeah. And then Ursula, who deleted the previous video, right? But obviously people have it. So then Ursula goes and says Ukraine is a true inspiration for Europe. Oh,
in what way?
Yeah, in what way? In its corruption model? And it's top 3 in the world for child porn peddling? Is it that inspiration that you want?
Honestly...
And we will support your fast recovery and your reconstruction. Oh, I'm sure you will, because there's loads of money to be made in rebuilding a country that's been rubberized.
There's like loads of money to be laundered as well.
Oh, and then they say, and we will make Russia pay for the brutal destruction it's causing.
They're going to send you and your family to war if they're not stopped. They are.
Yeah, and you know what? Russia's not a country you want to take on because they're animals. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is they're used to this kind of warfare. They're used to this attrition style, you know, where they'll just keep pounding away and they'll just keep coming back at you and they won't let up. And we're not used to that because if you think about it, the Second World War only lasted for 6 years, right? 4 if you're American. or was it 3? But anyway, I mean, the Second World War only lasted a short number of years. Now, that was a world war, right? Now, Russia's already been doing this special military operation in Ukraine because that's what they call it, right? They didn't call it a war. For a year, right? They're not going to take the foot off the gas. They're just going to keep going. Bakhmut's about to fall, right? When Bakhmut falls, then what happens? What happens then? This is the big crucial one, because once that falls, what does NATO do? And if NATO decides to go in, then they're going to be prepared for a long slog, and they're going to be prepared for mountain body bags and people getting shipped home. Do you remember what it was like when they were bringing British soldiers back from Afghanistan? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine?
More than one, like I say, I know more than one person that came back alive and is shell shocked for life.
Well, can you imagine what it's going to be like if those numbers are like 10, 100 times?
Well, exactly.
What came back from Afghanistan, right? And Russia will just keep grinding away. So then what happens? Someone decides, oh, well, we've got to finish this quickly. Let's nuke them, right? And we all know how that will plan out. Yeah. And I'm sorry to be a bit like negative, but unless this is stopped, then everybody is screwed.
And you know what? It needs to be stopped on all parts. Everyone needs to take a bloody step back and stop bloody, I don't know. It's almost dick measuring at this point. That's what we, and it's between people who, like I said, will send you and your kids to die for them. Do you want to do that? Do you want to go and do you want to send your kids to die for rich people who don't give two shiny shites about you? Really? And they'll say, oh, you're doing it for your country. No, you're not. You're not. You're doing it for them. You're doing it for their arguments. You're doing it for their pettiness. I know this show's usually far more entertaining than this, and I apologize, but, you know, this has got to be talked about, and this has got to be spoken about in a candid way. It really does.
No, I think that was a bit harsh.
I think you need to address this in the chat, John.
Well, okay. Well, someone said I need to apologise to CSA survivors. Is that like some kind of? I'm not. I think people might have misinterpreted what you said about Gary Glitter. Yeah, I think you might have. I mean, there is no, and I must say there's no need for you to start swearing in the chat, because I don't think that's really called for. Because if you actually listen to what I said, at no point did I support him or what he's done or what anyone who does that kind of thing does. What I'm saying is that if we're going to apply standards to people and to, you know, judicial systems and whatever, then we need to apply those standards. And if those standards don't meet our criteria, then we need to change them. That's basically what I'm coming at. So if you're going to say, you know, you get 16 years and you're only serving 8, then if you think that's not right, and people obviously think it's not right, then it needs to be changed. It needs to be upped. Or so people need to either have higher sentences or no parole, or they don't get out. That's what I was saying, right? Or you, if you want to go to the extremes, then you end their lives. Yeah, under no circumstance was I denigrating what I said to the people that suffer from child abuse or from you know, being attacked by paedophiles or whatever. And there was no support here on this channel or personally by me for these people, right? So what I'm doing is I'm putting the argument that society needs to change. Because obviously if you're getting people going round and massing outside hotels and things because someone's living there who's been released from prison, then you've got to change the terms of their sentence or how they're being treated. Because if society's against it, then you've got to change it. You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And Trudy says society indeed needs to change. Society, Trudy, needs to change in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for you. I'm not feeding my own ego here, and I'm not I'm not making excuses for anything that's occurred. So
I think what you did was I think what you did was you were trying to explain the system.
Yeah.
And you might have been a bit more forceful on the system than you could have been, or how the system works. And unfortunately, the way you described the system is right. It doesn't have. It's not acceptable, but it is how it is done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that note, you are absolutely right. It needs to change. Things need to change. Glitter, or whatever his real bloody name is, should not be out right now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to be in his gang.
And I'm not laughing.
No.
But the thing is, right, so what do you do with these people, right? Because these people exist. They're in our communities and they're abusing people right now, right? Mm-hmm. So when you catch them, what do you do with them? That's the thing. Because if there's no rehabilitation, right, you've got to take drastic measures. And who should be paying? I mean, if you keep them incarcerated, it costs us a fortune, right? And you know, I'm not putting this down to money, but if you keep them incarcerated, it costs us a fortune. So should we get to the point where we should be thinking about capital punishment? But if you go down the capital punishment route, what happens if you were ever wrong? You know, and that's happened in the past with other capital punishments. So
once again, yeah.
Again, we're not giving you answers. What we're saying is things need to change, but the people that need to change it is you and I. It's society.
Yeah,
because it won't be. Yeah, it won't be decided by judges and lawyers, because they're basically they're bound by this book that they're following. You know, so it's not about them. It's about us. It's about us changing it. And we don't want to go down the route of being vigilantes, because then we end up in bother, right?
Yeah.
So as a whole, society needs to change and needs to come up with ways to deal with these people. And I mean, you say things like put them on an island or whatever, but what if they escape? You know.
That's a good point.
And then if it's not an easy question, but again, I'd just like to reiterate, I have nothing but not empathy, but I have nothing but sorrow for the things that have been done to people, and I certainly don't wish it on anyone, and I certainly would wish to stop it happening to anyone. What I was trying to point out was our system is such that it lets these people out, and then if we either have to deal with that or we have to change it, and that's what I'm trying to say.
And you know what? I will say, if anybody was upset or offended on behalf of this show, we are sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've maybe not phrased that as well as I could have, right? But again, on the Sonia show, we don't get a lot of time, so
no,
you know, everything's compressed into like 5 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute slots. But yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to come on, or you want to send us a video response, or you want to come and have a chat with us, absolutely, no problem. And we'll discuss this, because you know, you've gone through something I've never gone through, right? But that doesn't make either of our opinions any less worthwhile, you know.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think it was, let me just scroll up the chat. It was Tony who said, just what is most likely to bring about a major culture shift, and how can we make the shift for the betterment of humanity? Well, first of all, the system in which we live needs to be torn down. That it comes back to that, right? The system in which we live right now needs to be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. And we need to start looking at these things. Like I might have said this before, and this is slightly off subject, but I am pro-drug, right? I won't take drugs, but I am pro-drug in so much as I don't think the government should be able to mandate what you can
Well,
and
you're-
can't put in your body.
you're
And
pro.
it is absolutely shocking.
You're pro
I'm pro-
bodily
pro-
autonomy.
Yeah, and it is absolutely shocking to me, like Sean said earlier on the show, that someone with a bunch of cocaine can get a longer sentence than Gary Glisser.
Yeah.
That shocks me to the core. And this is part of the system that needs to be
Well,
torn down
but-
and built up.
But we keep talking, and we've talked about this before, because our society values property above people.
Well, clearly.
It
Clearly
always
it
has.
does.
It always has, and this was one of the things that my eyes were open to when I joined the police. It's like,
I mean, one word, Rotherham.
yeah, okay. But as I was saying, I mean, the thing that really shocked me was when you were walking the beat, and yeah, we used to do that. When you walked the beat, you had to check your property, right? So, when you had an area that you were covering, you had to check all the front doors and back doors of all the shops to make sure none of them were broken into. And if something get broken into during the night and you hadn't checked it, you get into bother, right? But if somebody got their head kicked in and they were lying down an alleyway and bleeding out and nobody found them till the next day, that was okay. Nobody pulled you up for that because you weren't expected to check for dead people or people dying, And that might sound flippant, but that's what our society, or that's what we value. That seems to be the way that we've been taught. We value property over people, and people still do that. I mean, look at
I can't relate to what people have gone through as a child, but I spoke candidly Friday about my suicide attempt and things that led to that. And whilst I was not a child, I know how harrowing and how much you can hate yourself. You can hate yourself because of this stuff. And I don't know how people feel as a child. I really don't. And I apologize for that. But I know how the general situation can feel, is all I'm saying. And I get where you're coming from. And perhaps you should have or could have worded it better.
Yeah.
But where you're coming from is absolutely right. The system is shit. It's the system that has allowed him out. The system has said, and if we're to abide by the legal system that is in place in this country, then unfortunately, it is what it is. And he will serve another 8 years on license, which means he will at least be watched like a hawk. But I'm going to introduce a curveball into the equation, John. And another way that he could be
chemical or
How?
physical.
chemical.
Yeah. Okay.
Chemical castration.
I don't know what's involved, but would that mean he would have to continue taking a drug voluntarily?
I'm unsure.
So that's the problem.
I'm unsure.
Yeah.
Is all I can say.
Yeah.
But it's a very hard subject.
right? So and one of the things that gets me is they forced that upon the what's his name, Alan Turing, because he was gay. He wasn't a paedophile. He was gay.
And
But
you know
in
what?
the in the 40s and 50s, you weren't allowed to be gay.
Yeah, but still to this day, there are people who stigmatize people who are gay as, child sex offenders, and for the vast majority of those people, just like the vast majority of quote unquote straight people, that's simply not true, right? But these stigmas occur, and we've said it before, we keep saying it, society has to change, and it has to change on so many fronts. And it takes all of us to turn around and realize it. It really does. And how we do that, I don't know. All we can continue to do is reach out to you out there and hope that you at least listen to these little pearls of maybe wisdom that we try and give you. And at least think, right? Just think.
And
that's all we want you to do.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole thing's a difficult subject, and we try not to shy away from them. But by the same token, we don't do things for clicks and likes.
No.
I mean, you either like us or you don't, and that's
Exactly.
fine. We want you to like us. we'd like to think that we're giving you entertainment. Sometimes we hit some hard subjects and we try and put them across as we can. I think as I've got older, I've become much more mellow in my attitudes towards things, and I don't see everything as black and white anymore. There are a number of shades of grey. That's not to excuse anything or any behaviour.
No.
And it's certainly not to condone it. So, yeah, I think maybe in retrospect it probably wasn't the kind of subject to bring up on Sonia's show, to be fair, because of the time involved. I mean, look at the time we've just spent discussing this.
Yeah, and there's so much, like there's so much nuance in our positions, and I think for somewhat me and you clearly don't follow the same path on this, right? In some respects we do, in some respects we don't, and we won't get into that right now.
Yeah.
But people can disagree. But I think we do all agree that this man should probably still be in his cage.
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it is a really tricky subject. I mean, I've seen people with photographs get jailed for 3-4 years. You know what I mean? So, and there are people that they've not physically done anything, right? So maybe enabled the act by taking possession of the photographs, which is then encouraging people to actually
my old
do this
music
stuff.
teacher didn't get any time.
Yeah, but then you. I mean, I know someone who got locked up just for having photographs, and when I say just for, I don't mean it's a minor thing, but you get these massive variations in the judicial system, and whereas you can't have quite a menu and you have to take things into consideration, I think it's just really, really tricky.
It is, and perhaps that's really, really strange, Trudy. Really strange. But perhaps it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had in a lot more depth than 20 minutes in a crash show could have allowed.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it is hard, but like I said, on behalf of the show, if anything came across, I mean, I barely got a word in at all during that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because the problem was I was trying to make a point about society and societal change, and Sean was shouting that he should be dead, right? And I didn't disagree. Don't disagree with Sean's actual attitude or his feelings, but that wasn't the point. I wasn't trying to come at it as an individual.
He's 78. He's had a good run. Bye, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to come at it as the kind of devil's advocate, and this is where society is. So it's the systems, I would say, more than anything.
Oh yeah, and the society. Well, is it the systems or is it society itself? And it's a
there's a bit of both, isn't there? Because I think society's lost its way to a degree, because we don't have. I mean, and this is back to the start. We don't have the same values that we should have, and we don't regard things with the same respect. And
no, society isn't even what it was 20 years ago.
No, I know.
I mean, this latest generation have come along and they've just bastardized everything, and there seems to be this weird push by them to make these things we're talking about right now okay, right? Have you noticed that?
But see, this is this whole agenda that you've literally at the moment got something like 0.06 of the population dictating to the rest of the population what the norm is. And while everybody's entitled to their own viewpoint, you're not entitled to thrust your viewpoint down someone else's throat.
But it's a crying shame that we've reached the place that we have in society. Natasha says if you don't have the debate, nothing will be progressed, and you might argue pushes it underground even more. Both of these points are absolutely true, right? this is what I keep saying about the idea of free speech, and that's why, you know, slightly off subject again, but when Sadiq Khan put out his tweet the other day saying, "I believe in free speech, but you don't believe in free speech," then,
No, he doesn't.
what he's doing is he's trying to push what he considers hate completely underground. And if you believe in free speech, you believe in the right for for a person who is, you know, articulating the most abhorrent views going to at least articulate these views. Now, do you have to agree with these views? Absolutely not. But the only way we progress society forward is by talking it out, is with speech. Because fighting's not really going to do anything. A show of strength over a compromise, I mean, I guess, but a compromise is always better for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's a compromise. How do you meet in the middle? How do you come to a place where you can do things that at least slightly benefit some people or all people and maybe hinder you in other ways, but you come to a compromise, you talk, you meet in the middle, and we can't stifle these debates. Society needs to change. And on that note, John, should we move on?
Yes, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so this is about the Chinese balloon.
The China balloon?
Yeah.
Ah!
This guy obviously fancies himself as a comedian.
Yeah.
So the reporter, does the public not have the right to know where the balloon is? Pentagon, the public certainly has the ability to look up in the sky and see where the balloon is.
And we need to make a little bit of a correction on Friday's show because John thought it was the International Space Station and it was actually just the payload hanging under the balloon.
Yeah, okay. That I watched a weather balloon being launched by NASA earlier on, and the payload looks identical.
Do you think this is one massive distraction and it was actually, well, Xi Jinping?
Yeah, why is China going along with it?
Well, he's claimed responsibility, so you know, when we're looking at it at face value, it's China.
Yeah.
Right. When we're looking at it, you know, at face value, it is China.
Yeah.
And Natasha says, were they looking for honey? I know when he's run out in China. Oh dear, I need myself some honey. Piglet, quickly send the balloon.
But if you look at what was involved in shooting the balloon down, right?
Was the F-16 fighter jet?
Well, you think about it, they threw everything at it, didn't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
they did.
they reckon it's cost them about $6 million just to shoot the balloon down.
I mean, they could have spent that $6 million at least a day earlier.
Yeah.
They should have shot it down. Oh, we don't want to shoot it down when it's overpopulated.
No, they don't want
overpopulated areas for the vast majority of its travel across mainland United States.
Yeah, I know. Right, so coming back to society, what's going on here? Right, so this is London.
Is that Google Maps Street View?
I don't think so because
That
it's
looks like
no, it's
Google
not.
Maps.
It's not. It's a video. It's a clip from a video. Right. But the thing is, why is this allowed? I thought you had to have like permits and things to shut down roads for festivals and stuff like that.
Well, maybe they did have.
Okay. It just seems to happen an awful lot.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem to happen an awful lot. But we would be absolute hypocrites if we said people can't pray to their God.
Oh, I'm not saying that. But why do they have to do it in the gutter?
That I don't know. But as long as they've done it
And the thing
legally,
is,
right, they'll do it and then they'll go away.
they can't be praying because they're facing different directions.
That's very true.
That's true.
Maybe they're having some kind of massive meal sitting on the curb. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be.
Using the curbside as their table.
Right, so sticking with this subject at the moment, right? So these guys, right, see these guys with the red, are they police? Is that your London police with the red?
City of London, yeah.
Right.
And I know who these two are as well.
Yeah, they are Nazi-style radical extremists, aren't they?
Yeah, Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawa are very much extremists.
Yeah. Now,
In their views.
yes, and they're telling these cops that if Zionists come in with their dogs, as they had, then they will kill the dogs.
And the British police what can the British police do about that, though?
Well, see, this is the thing. What kind
Can
of...
they not only act if they actually do kill the dogs?
Well, no, you can act on threats.
You can act on threats to human life.
No, you can act on threats. I mean, the thing is, if you're threatening to kill someone's dog and they're there, there's a good chance then that is going to involve some kind of problem with the people that are trying to save their dogs and the people that are trying to kill their dogs. So, I mean, the threat of physical violence is ever present there.
No, you're absolutely right, my friend. But these two should, I hope they're on a watch list. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Because they've been spewing hatred and extremist rhetoric for years.
Yeah.
On video, especially at Speaker's Corner, where they go and do it because they think they're free to do so. Natasha says, "Is that not inciting violence?" But once again, where does the law stand? Is inciting violence only against a human being, or is it against an animal? This is why society needs to take a look at things. You know, it can go back to what we said. We don't know where the law stands on this, or where the system says this is.
Well, I tell you what, and this was part of a video as well, when a guy is walking about with a knife strapped to his foot so as he can kick dogs to death with it, then I think the police should be stepping in.
Well, I think they should be arresting him immediately.
Yes, but they didn't.
I don't care what the fucking reason is for having a knife strapped to one's foot. If you're walking around with a knife strapped to one's foot, you are literally walking around with a deadly weapon. You could go up and roundhouse kick someone in the face, for all they know. Yes, they should be taken straight off the bloody street.
I know. Now, moving on, right? So there's a report coming out apparently that is right. So, and this is something that I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say here, because the Express has come out with Islamists identified as biggest terror threat in landmark report. So a major shake-up of how Britain battles the Islamist terror threat will be triggered this week with the publication of a landmark report. What's the difference between an Islamist and a Muslim?
Well, I can tell you what their definition is.
Yeah, go on.
Their definition is someone who believes a literal extremist reading of the book.
Right.
Is an Islamist, and someone who simply follows the religion peacefully is a Muslim.
Whose definition would that be? The Express's?
That would be the government's.
Is that real? Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. So you can be a follower of Islam and be a Muslim, but if you're a follower of Islam and an Islamist, you are then a potential terror threat.
You're a threat.
Right. Well, there you go. Ben, take it away. Take it away.
Black Gary's gaffed awake. Black Gary's gaffed awake. Black Gary's gaffed awake. Black Gary's gaffed awake. He's got a tax bill today.
He does.
It's Black Gary.
Right. So Gary's tax bill is £4.9 million.
Oh.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Because, and this has been going on since like 2017 or even earlier, I think, because the kind of HMRC have this thing called IR35, where they don't really want you working as a freelancer. The companies pay for contractors because if they've got a contractor, they don't need to pay national insurance contributions, they don't need to pay tax on them, they don't need to make any contribution to any pension or anything like that. So the company gets loads of benefits, right?
Yeah.
The contractor then gets the advantage that the company will pay him a higher price because he costs them less than an employee, right? And they can get rid of him basically at any point.
Right.
So the contractor takes all the risk but gets a bigger reward.
Of course.
So HMRC say, well, that's not fair, right? So now under, and this is basic, but under terms of the IR35, if you're deemed to be a de facto employee because you're working at a company and you're deemed to be inside IR35, the contractor is responsible for making the contributions to pension and tax and everything else that a company normally would be, and has to pay tax on the earnings as an employee. So the contractor now bears all the risk and has a monetary penalty.
Yep.
Right. So Gary is in that category now, that he, as a contractor effectively, right, has now been declared inside IR35 and needs to pay proper tax as opposed to putting it into a company.
This is not the first time Gary's got into tax issues.
No, I think this is a carry on of the same thing. I think this has been going on for 4 or 5 years. So the problem is he a freelancer or is he an actual employee of the BBC?
I would say he's an employee of the BBC.
Well,
that's my personal opinion.
Does he work for anyone else?
Well, Walker's crisps, but not really anymore.
No, not from an advertising point of view. Does he present for anyone else?
I don't think so.
Because if he presents for anyone else, then he's almost certainly not an employee of the BBC.
Yeah, I don't think so. Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't watch football, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I will say that I think the fact that they put him up front as a host of a BBC show, it's, you know, he anchors more than one show, I believe, with the BBC.
Yeah.
So they put him up as their anchor, then obviously they are employing him, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think he probably does classify as effectively a de facto employee.
If he was not the anchor of certain shows, if it wasn't, you know, Gary Lineker's up front, if he was a guest, if he was someone who appeared on these shows, then perhaps there's an argument for freelancing. Like, let's take things like the panel shows on Channel 4, like the 8 out of 10 Cats or whatever, when different comedians come in and do those. If it was like that, but because he anchors BBC shows, I would say he's probably an employee.
Yeah, I think that's probably a reasonable test for that kind of person.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, well, apparently he's had 9 jobs in 2021, so maybe he is outside IR35.
Yeah, maybe, but is he sitting for the BBC as a freelancer, or is he sitting?
Well, no,
for
he would be then, because
employee?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's a tricky one to say, but if he's I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because that's the MPs and them taking second jobs.
The whole thing is mental, you know. And the thing is, while people like Gary Lineker make huge amounts of money, and you know the whole stories about him because one, he is, you know, Gary Lineker, and it's a huge tax bill. What you're failing to think about are the people that don't fall into that category, the people that earn a lot less and then suddenly had their livelihood ripped out from them because of that kind of legislation. I
mean, our own Adam is going to suffer because of this, I believe. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that government are allowed to get away with half the stuff they're allowed to get away with, right?
Yeah.
But once again, it all feeds back into the conversation we've had pretty much this whole entire second half of this show. It's the system. Yeah. The system needs to change.
Well, we've been banging on about the system since day one. The whole thing needs torn down and rebuilt. And speaking of systems,
yeah, this is the one thing that they told us was going to be a conspiracy theory once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a conspiracy theory. Yeah.
The Bank of England and Treasury will next week throw their weight behind a digital pound as they set out a roadmap to introduce a new central bank digital currency by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the end of your freedom.
Because then they can track every transaction you make. And they can turn it on and off on a whim.
Well, exactly.
Much like they do in
China is asshole.
China.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And I mean, all you have to do is look at the COP, the one that was in Glasgow, where Boris Johnson continually said there was a war on cash.
Yeah.
He kept saying it. Right?
Yeah.
They are going after your cash. They are going after your ability to spend, your ability to make decisions with your own money.
And look at the way they worded it, right? So they've worded it. Digital pound possible by 2030 in a bid to combat the falling use of cash.
Is the use of cash falling? I believe it's actually on the rise again, isn't it?
I didn't think it was falling, but you know, that's the narrative though. People don't use cash anymore. We don't need it. You know, cash is just an inconvenience. It's an inconvenient truth.
Well, I mean, like Adam says, they can already turn our credit cards off just like that. So they will do that with these digital coins too. They will be able to have absolute control of any and every transaction you make. And then once they've got that under control, right, call me a conspiracy theorist, don't care. Watch them tie your purchasing to your so-called carbon footprint.
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry, you've spent too much money. Your carbon footprint's too high this week, Mr. Porter.
Yep, definitely.
You can't have that food.
Definitely. So, during the Great Panic, Peter Hitchens reports here that his Mail on Sunday colleague, Dr. Ellie Cannon, favoured the use of face coverings.
Yes.
And Peter opposed them. The paper published both views. Fair point.
And,
okay.
Dr. Ellie appears to have
come to the conclusion that they didn't do any good.
Oh, really?
It's amazing.
I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked and surprised, John.
Indeed.
Looks like Iran plans to build a drone factory in Russia that could make 6,000 drones.
Okay. Yeah. So
let's see Israel or the US bombing Iranian factories again, this time around in Russian airspace. This is a ballsy move.
Yeah. So this is this is obviously in a response to the Shahed drone factories being destroyed by, was it Israeli? I think it was Israeli bombing. Yeah. So
it's ballsy, but it's quite smart.
It is quite smart. It's he's putting as many things, but he's not daft. He really
I mean it's smart on both their parts, because if that drone factory does get bombed in Russia, Putin be like, I declare war on people bombing Russia, and if the Iranians will get involved too because their stuff was blown up. It's smart. It's intelligent. It's not good. It's not good, but you know you have to give credit where credit's due, I guess, right? What are we looking at here?
This is Glasgow City Centre yesterday.
Yep.
This was Cabaret Against Hate. So
what is this picture? What is this image? What am I seeing? Is this a furry?
That's a furry, yeah. So I've no idea what furries have got to do with this whole thing.
Because furries are now trying to consider themselves trans? Trans animals? Trans species? I don't bloody know. Have you seen TikTok? Go on TikTok for 10 minutes. I dare you. In fact, we're going to do another TikTok special.
I can't go on TikTok.
Right. There will be another TikTok special in this month of February where we will sit here and we will together watch TikTok, right? There's people that identify as bloody ghosts. There's people that identify as vampires. There's one person I saw, it's like, call me, my pronouns are demon and demon self. Call me demon. These people they've taken this and they've really run with it, John.
They've gone too far. Right, so this was Elon coming out of court on Friday.
He won, didn't he?
Yeah, he did the Tesla 420 thing. Yeah.
Why is he masked?
That is the question I'm asking myself. Nobody else is.
I think the only reason Mr. Musk would be covering his face is so that people don't take pictures of him. Because he said he's no longer making public appearances.
Oh, right, did he?
Yeah, he's made the announcement that he has a cold sore, like Adam says, and he just didn't want them to catch his bad side. Or he had a meeting with Amber Heard, and now he's got a bruise on his face. I mean, what?
Yeah. It's a bit strange, though, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a bit strange. Why? But is this picture definitely from Friday?
Yeah, it's from Friday. That's him leaving the court. And it wasn't a picture, it was a video.
Also, is it mandated within the courthouse?
Well, look at the guy behind them.
It's not mandated within the courthouse. I'm hearing your WhatsApp again, John.
Yeah, I know. Because
tell your WhatsApp, right, to take its little notification and shove it up its own rectum. That's what it needs to do. Right, moving on. James Melville has stolen your meme.
Again, he has.
Quite literally stolen your meme.
I'll give him credit. He hasn't just quite stolen it. He's added to it to a slight degree. But basically, I came up with this last
year
spring?
ago, maybe more than a year ago.
Yeah, because I drew that horseshoe shape, and I said the left and the right are so close that they're practically the same thing. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's more or less exactly what it was, except that my horseshoe was the other way around.
I mean, it's quite funny how much Jimmy Boy does seem to say things after us.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same with Neil Oliver, right? It is who has followed us both on Twitter, by the way. You know, we told him, we covered this stuff that you're talking about now days ago on this show. He's followed us, and a bunch of actual people came and subscribed to the channel from that as well. So thank you very much if you did. But yeah, this is John's meme stolen by Mr. Melville yet again. And then moving on to James Bembridge, who you still need to phone.
Yes, I know. Right. So Mr. Bembridge actually comes out with quite a good point here, because you remember how Dominic Raab was accused of bullying people and being overbearing and all that? Okay.
Yeah.
So he imagined that Raab was going around beating civil servants with a birch or whatever, right? Which you can imagine, because some of the hyperbole coming out of it was quite extreme. So this is actually from a victim of the bullying. It wasn't shouting or throwing things about the room. It was more insidious, particularly with junior staff. He could be very icy.
Icy and cold.
He'd be given a piece of paper and there would be a silence. And he would say, "This isn't good enough."
And this is bullying.
The official would be stammering, and he'd be saying, "This isn't right. It's not good enough. I can't accept this." You don't have to be physically aggressive for people to be scared. Now, if this is bullying, oh my God, I must apologise to you, Ben.
I just hearing you read that out, I died inside a little. Because if society can't take criticism, that's it. It's over. It's done.
I know. It's ridiculous.
What have we become? Jesus Christ! What is wrong with people?
We've become a bunch of wet noodles. We really have. I mean, remember when we find out that millennials think that giving someone a thumbs up in a WhatsApp message is being disrespectful.
Ladies and gentlemen, I might well be a millennial, but believe me, I don't identify with mainstream millennials. I don't understand them. I don't get them. They're obviously from a different. I'm of a different time, obviously.
This right is just off the wall.
Wow.
Okay. This is off the wall as far as I'm concerned. What kind of expert can float that idea, right? And what kind of untold harms could this do to a developing child? Because if the body is brain, I mean, I can't believe that the body just functions as, an incubator for 9 months, because I think there's a lot of, you can see changes in light and everything when kids are developing, right? So they know when it's dark and they can hear music and they hear voices and all that. And then there'll be the whole thing about the person with the emotions and hormones and all that kind of stuff that the child will experience as well. I cannot believe this could ever work or be. I think you could end up with something like the Midwich Cuckoos if you went down this route.
I have no words.
I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible. Yeah.
I think it's horrible. You know, and look at some of the Twitter comments there. Horrifying, dystopian, total societal moral collapse. I would say total societal moral collapse is something basically we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
And it is what's happening. You know, when you've got people that want to float the other thing that we were talking about earlier as some kind of legitimate sexual preference, and they're given airtime to do so, and people are giving TED Talks about it, and Eliza Blue is saying that in her utopian world, kids would be able to consent, and this is supposed to be an advocate against that sort of thing. Society's screwed.
Yeah. I think it's
society's in the head. It's done.
Let's lighten up for the end. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so just my luck. 250 million-year-old salt, and it expired 2 years ago. How can it expire? So this has been dug up, put in a jar, and it's 100% uncontaminated sea salt. How can it expire?
Because its shelf life is 250 million years, and this is 250 million and two, John. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. Right, 250 million and two. You were meant to have it at 250 million or before.
It's just ridiculous.
Don't you know it?
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, how can you countenance that? Right, now the next one. I'm going to ask you a question about. This is Lizzo at the Grammys, okay?
What the fuck's a Lizzo?
I don't know. I think it's a. I can't say.
Who's Lizzo?
It's some kind of. Is it some kind of influencer?
Musician?
No, I don't think. Is she a
Adam says Lizzo is a singing lady.
Right, but Ben, what was your first thought when you saw that?
She looks like a volcano.
No. That wasn't my first thought. My first thought was, that looks like the pile of leaves in Fortnite.
It does! It does! John,
Ben,
you got Bush Warrior on.
Like you need more than Bush Warrior if you went into that pile, mate.
Oh, Jesus! Come on now, man!
But yeah, that's bad. That's right. So
Natasha says she looked like she fell out of Sesame Street. This episode was brought to you by the L for Lizzo.
Right. Oh, it gets worse. It does. Oh, trust me, it gets worse.
I'm saying it. Yeah, I'm saying.
So the Guardian has come out with this one.
Oh, the Guardian.
1,000-year-old remains in Finland may be a non-binary Iron Age leader.
Can I just? I will put this entire situation to bed right now.
Go on.
It wasn't.
No. Well, everything that they found in the grave tended to indicate. Well, everything they found didn't tend to. Everything they found indicated the person was a male.
So there you go.
So why would you think he may have been a non-binary Iron Age leader? Why do you think that? Because it's convenient.
We need a little clip, right, where a rainbow goes across and just the word virtue pops up.
With a unicorn, perhaps, as well.
Yeah, with the word virtue.
Yeah.
That's your task for the afternoon, John.
Yeah.
Make a virtue signal clip.
Okay.
Because that's all this is. This is absolute claptrap nonsense from the propaganda rag that speaks not much truth at all. The Guardian, ladies and gentlemen. If people are reading this fucking... I'm sorry for keep swearing, but if people are using and reading this newspaper as some kind of legitimate source of information, I can't help you. Chasing Dissent can't help you. You are... I'm sorry, but you're lost. You're lost.
So, meanwhile in Ukraine, let's go skiing. What kind of? I mean, what kind of country at war is this?
Do you know what? To be fair, if we were at war, I'd probably be like, "You're right, John. We're gonna walk towers." I would.
Yeah, but if your country was being attacked, would Alton Towers be open?
Well, yeah, that's a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, it's like, and remember, refugees come here, right, from Ukraine, and then they go back home to visit.
They do. They go back on holiday.
Or if you live in Scotland, they go back home to visit the doctor because it's quicker than waiting for the doctor here.
They do. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. They do. Actually, right now he's above me, so he's absolutely right. Yeah. Anyway, you're absolutely right. Let's move on. In the 5-hour interview, which touched on numerous other subjects.
So Putin got interviewed, right?
Right.
And one of this guy Bennett says he asked Putin about whether he intended to kill Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and Putin said,
no.
Putin said, "No, I won't kill Zelensky." I then said to him, "I have to understand you're giving me your word that you won't kill Zelensky?" And Putin said,
"I'm not going to kill Zelensky."
Okay, Bennett then said he called Zelensky to inform him of Putin's pledge. "Listen, I came out of a meeting. He's not going to kill you." Zelensky asks,
"Are you sure?"
I said 100% he wouldn't kill you. Right. So Putin...
This whole thing's a sitcom, isn't it? This whole thing's a bloody sitcom.
They're still acting. But Putin actually never said, "I won't have you killed."
Yeah, because just because you personally won't do something
doesn't mean
that others won't.
Mm-hmm.
I see where you're coming from there, John. I do. I see where you're coming from. But I don't know. It's just hilarious.
Are you sure? Are you sure he's not going to do it?
The whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, it really is. It's a. And
Did you
speaking
see that video of Zelensky? It's just like 30 seconds long, and all he's doing, he looks like he's coked out of his tits, and he's in the presidential office, and he's just going.
Yeah, I did see that.
Into the camera, and it's like, what?
Did you see the photograph of him in New York City in 1991?
No.
Where he's still wearing camouflage pants.
And finally.
And that's all he's wearing, camouflage pants.
We move on to our final slide, and then I'm going to address a point afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is the gift that keeps on giving. It is the New York Post, and this is it. It's finally, it's real. Yep. Hunter has finally admitted it is not Russian disinformation. The multiple laptops are his.
They are his. They're owned by him, and they do have all the information on them.
Yeah, Hunter's screwed, isn't he?
Well, so should Joe be. I mean, Joe can't stand for a second term.
No, the Democrats
in fact, Joe should be
throwing Joe under the bus.
Yeah, they are.
They're busy throwing him under the bus right now with all these classified documents, which he had less right to have than Trump did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I watched stuff. I watched a thing that didn't age well. I watched something about 6 months ago. Joe was mocking Trump for having classified documents.
Oh, when he had them in his garage next to his car.
Yeah, how these things come back to bite you. Right, did you want to go full?
No, go full, just the two of us.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you may have noticed that this is a slightly longer show than usual. And it's not even because of that big bit in the middle. I mean, that definitely helped push the time.
Yeah.
But we've come to the conclusion that we are only going to do 3 of these live shows a week now. So it's going to be Monday, it's going to be Wednesday, both at 2 p.m. But they are going to be 80 to 90-minute shows. And then we are going to do Friday night at 9 p.m. because we figure fewer bites of us might be better for you, but in bigger chunks, shall we say?
Maybe not, but
maybe not.
Let us know. Let us know.
But this is what we're testing at the moment, and Propaganda Watch will be back tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. sharp. I will film it tonight. I'm going to try and illuminate this place even more, make things just look better between now and then. But you can't wait. I can't wait for them to hear my new audio, John, because they haven't got it here. I've been
Listen,
working.
mate, your audio's fine here because don't forget you are processed here.
Yes, and Trudy says competition, has anybody entered? Now, before John goes on about that, if you do enjoy this, then we would really appreciate a sub to the channel, a like, a share button, and if you are watching it back, a comment indeed. And if you want to go one further and you really think we're worth it, then please consider a donation at patreon.com/Chasing Dissent, or indeed Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Chasing Dissent. John, we haven't even worked out how people are going to enter this competition yet, and the prize is in a month.
Yeah, we better get our finger out.
We really should, because for those of you that don't know, one of you lucky people is going to win at the opportunity to replace me on a Friday night all-in at the beginning of March.
I could put a form on the website and link it in a community post or something, couldn't I? Yeah, I could
maybe.
do that. I could do that.
You could do that.
Yeah, do something like that.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you could help push us to 1,000 subscribers, then we will be able to start making a few pennies. And then if we can make those pennies, then we can start upgrading things, making things look better, sound better, be better. So we really do appreciate your support in any way that you can give it. And with that,
I don't know why Adam would say he's teasing. I wouldn't have a problem hosting a show with Sean.
I tell you what, we should just contact him.
Yeah.
Have him on as a guest proper.
Anyway, with that, were you in the middle of something?
No, I was handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Ben, and I'd like to thank you all for attending this episode 196 of Chasing Dissent Live with me, John, and Ben. And it's been great for you.
With you.
You can see we're riding on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. Too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were